What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Made You a Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason. Look, I want you for this episode to kick back, put your feet up, pop your headphones in, because on the show today is Baz Littlerock, lead singer of the appropriately named Baz Littlerock band, as well as Bon Jovi Forever. Baz, how are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
Really good, really good. So let's get right into the meat of things here, and let's talk about Bon Jovi Forever. How did that band come about, and why Bon Jovi?
All right. Yeah. Well, it's a long story, but I'll make it as short as I can. I started out doing original stuff and doing covers as well, and trying to make it in the business, doing my own stuff. And after about 10 years of playing, me and an ex decided to have a baby. And so I wanted to be a father. I didn't want to be out touring all over the place with no money. I mean, if I had been successful, it would have been a different story, but I didn't want to be starving. I didn't want my kid to have nothing. So, you know, I thought long and hard about it, and I thought, you know what? I've been approached about doing tribute bands before, and no matter what I did, whether it was doing White Zombie stuff or Metallica stuff or Huey Lewis stuff, whatever I was doing, how it got compared to Bon Jovi. Like they'd come up after a show and go, "You sound like Bon Jovi." We didn't even play any Bon Jovi in our set, but yeah, so when it came time, it was pretty simple. It was a pretty easy decision because everyone had told me, like, it was basically there. There was many bands I would have rather done at the time, but yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, I can sing it, I might as well do it.
Now, when you're putting the set list together, I mean, let's be honest, Bon Jovi has a large catalog of songs to choose from. So how do you sit there and go through album after album after album and say, well, these are the songs we're going to play tonight?
I make the set list up every night, or usually in the middle of the week. I'll make a set list and then I send it out to the guys. We have a thing too where when we advertise the show on Facebook or whatever, we'll say, you know, if you want songs, send them in, and if we can fit them into the show, we will. And I mean, you don't always put them in because sometimes they don't fit with the show that night or whatever, and it might be such an obscure song that you were planning on doing another obscure song that night. But yeah, we try to get everybody's request in there, especially, you know, when you know it's for someone. You know, every night somebody's going to request Living on a Prayer, Bed of Roses all the time. We play those songs every night. So it's nice though when they get requested, you know, is then you can give the person a shout out from the stage and they come out and they feel good that you're doing it for them, even though you're going to do it anyway, but then you're giving them that shout out. Yeah. So like the set list, basically it's different every show, but it's similar. If that makes any sense. Like it's a pretty easy process, really, because they do have a lot of songs. You can't really go wrong. Every night somebody's upset though that you didn't play one of their favorites.
Now I can only imagine as a singer, like, you know, some of the songs, especially when you get to, you know, like the These Days albums and further on, where, you know, it's not maybe as hard vocally because, of course, you know, John himself is probably, you know, not pushing maybe as much because, you know, age comes in and all that. But when you think back to some of those earlier songs, and then the first one that comes to mind is Runaway. How not that you dread playing the song, because it is actually a good song, but do you sit there and think of that high note and go, this has got to be an end of the nighter kind of thing?
No. Well, yes and no. Actually, we do that song usually in the second set. The notes at the end are falsetto, which my falsetto's not great. It's okay. Some nights I get it, some nights I don't. I'll always go for it. The nights I think about it before I get there are the nights that I never get it. Like, it's like, as soon as you think about, oh, here comes that part, am I singing it, blah, 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 and it's total mind fuck. And you know, then you butcher it. You sound like a cat getting dragged through whatever they get dragged through. Yeah, but No, not really. I don't dread it. You're saying these days is we used to do it, and it's probably for me one of the harder songs to sing. I don't know why, but that's actually a tricky. He really sings it a little differently than the rest of them. But yeah, he did sing a lot. I do like vocal style earlier as opposed to now. It's definitely a lot more in my wheelhouse where it's more feel and balls out. And now it's kind of more about songwriting, I guess.
I could just imagine, like, second set, you pull that song and you actually hit the note, and the rest of the night, it's just like, yes, nailed it. Doesn't matter what I do now, I nailed that song. But but you're also in the Baz Littlerock band, appropriately because it is you. But so when it comes to playing with the Baz Littlerock band as opposed to Bon Jovi Forever, how does it differ for you as far as putting the set list together? And is there one you enjoy more, where you're doing Bon Jovi all night, one night, or a variety of covers?
Well, they both have their things I like better. I would say, like, I love them both equally, I guess. I know that's the politically right answer, but it's the truth. Like, I think everything I do, I put the same kind of passion into it. So it's, whether it's the original stuff or the band with the girl singer, or the Nickelback or the Bon Jovi, it's all, when that show comes, it's like my favorite show to do. And then, the very next night, it'll be like, we've done shows where we did Nickelback and Bon Jovi on the same festival. And it's like, when you're doing the Bon Jovi, it's like, yeah, this is the best. And then when the Nickelback comes on, you're like, yeah, this is the best. This is just awesome. Playing music is awesome. So, as opposed to the set list, I think, and what I like better say about the Baz Littlerock band is the fact that I play lead guitar in that band as well as sing. And it's just a wide range of music. It's a little looser than the Bon Jovi, and it's a little bit more, you have a little bit more freedom, I guess is the right way to say it. Like, with the Bon Jovi being a tribute band, we try to do the songs like they are. With the Baz Littlerock band, you can kind of stretch it out a little bit. I can put my own solos in if I want. Nobody's going to kill me. I can sing them a little different too. I don't have to sound exactly like, say, Axl Rose, or I don't have to sound like Buck Cherry for doing that. Like, it's just the attitude is there. So do I like any better than the other? No. Yeah, they're just all fun, and they all have their things that I like about them.
Now, one of the things I find interesting is the fact that you have mentioned that you write original music, and you're also in a cover band, and you're also in a tribute band. And when you take a look at, when it comes to being a working musician, the pay scale, it's rather interesting, because you have, tribute bands, and then you get your cover bands, they get basically like the, for lack of a better term, the bar wage, if you will. And then you get the original band, where it's like, they're just doing their best to actually get heard. It's kind of like, it's hard, because to get paid as an original band, unless you're a signed artist, it's kind of hard. So, as you navigate between the three, how does each one differ? And, do you have a preference as to either of the three?
Well, I'm going to throw one more in there, because I do solo acoustic shows as well, which they'll pay me more than anything, usually. But of all the things to do, it's my least favorite of them all. I do like the challenge of being on your own and playing and trying to be exciting somehow. But any day, I'd much rather play with a band, even if it means less money. But for the pay scale, I kind of forgot the question. but you see the difference, though, in like the fact that tribute bands do get paid more than cover bands, which get paid more than original bands. Should the scale almost be evened? It's tough to say. No musician makes what they're worth usually. It's hard to say. Like a tribute band, I think the reason that you can justify paying more, and by no means am I going to say a tribute band is better than a cover band or anything. Like, I don't want any of the musicians out there getting pissed off, because do it all, and I honestly feel like they're all equal in a talent way. I think with the tribute, you have a better chance of bringing a bigger audience, especially doing a band, say like the Bon Jovi, or if you're doing Foo Fighters or Metallica, or bands that have a big following. You have a better chance of drawing a crowd, as opposed to where you put the Baz Littlerock band on the marquee, or you put Bon Jovi Forever on the marquee, and I'll guarantee you the Bon Jovi Forever will bring more people. So I think that's how you can justify more money. I mean, with us, it's not that big of a difference in the bar. Yeah, I don't really like saying it, because then when we're pitching the festival shows, they get all like, well, you play the bar for, this, why can't you do that for the same? And I'm like, well, you're throwing in your travel and they're totally different shows. Like a festival show in its own right can be way harder than playing a bar, because you're up against a lot more. Like, you had a band on 10 minutes before you're going to go on. Well, half an hour before you're going to go on. They have 15 minutes to get their shit up stage. You got 15 minutes to get your shit on stage to play. You're not in the right mindset when the first song comes on. You're kind of still setting up in your brain, and you don't get a good sound check. It's it can be tricky, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a band should be paid by how good they are, and how consistent they are at putting people in your bar. And a lot of people are going to hate that too, because it's not the musician's job to fill a bar. The same point, if you play a place, like we play Oscar's Roadhouse in Brampton with two of my bands, and both bands do very well there. And I'm hoping that they make it through this when we can play there again. But both bands do well there. Now, it's a team effort. Like, we promote well. We have a fan base of Brampton now, which helps. Now, if we went and played another bar in Brampton, I don't know if it would work the same. But when we play there, they advertise really well. They do stuff on their tables, because they have a good lunch and dinner crowd. So they advertise on their tables, not just at the urinal or the knee high at the front door, like a lot of places do. They have it on every single table. They have the advertisements of who's coming, and it's really helped them out. So yeah, do I think that the Baz Littlerock band and the Bon Jovi band should get paid similar there? Sure. But if I turn around and say, maybe my other band with the girl singer should probably make a little less until we build it up. Try and tell that to older musicians, though. They just I've been playing for 30 years. I don't want to play for $100, It's like,
the $100 a night per band member ratio. It's yeah. I think every musician who hears that goes, oh yeah, I feel that pain. But talking about playing live, this past year plus has been decimating for live music. First of all, how have you been through all of this, and how do you see us in Ontario getting back to hopefully getting live music in the bars again?
I've been okay. I've kept myself busy musically, working on my album and that other band I was talking about, and doing Sunday night shows on Facebook. I do like a 4-hour show every Sunday night, where I do 2 hours acoustic and 2 hours all request karaoke, which I was never a fan of karaoke, but it's kind of fun. It's just people they're communicating with you, and they're asking for songs, and sometimes you'll be singing songs that either you have no business singing, or that maybe you've always wanted to try but we're too afraid because it's ridiculously hard. Like, I sang some stuff I had no business. I have done a couple Queen songs. I've done something from I can't even St. Elmo's Fire. Just stuff that is like, wow. I think at Christmas time I did a Wham song. And, it wasn't a highlight for me, for sure, but I really wanted to hear it. I was like, all right, well, you got you. And it was somebody who tuned in every single week. Like, I've been doing the Sunday night since pretty much the start of the very first shutdown. And it just kind of took off. People were liking it and enjoying it, gave them something to do. And this person who requested the Wham had been on every single week. So, you know, hey, whatever. It's that person supporting me. I'll embarrass myself for them, whatever. And then, you know, I've sang a lot of songs that I sang shitty too, just because of trying stuff. And I think for the people who go, I think sometimes that makes it fun for them too, going, you know, like, it's not the same songs every week. He's not afraid to try something that's maybe out of his wheelhouse and have fun. So that for me has been about as close to being live as I can get. For Ontario coming out of it, I hope it's sooner than later. I mean, as most musicians will tell you, like, we all want to get back playing live. I mean, it's what we do. What they can do, I don't know. Like, I don't really want to play in a fishbowl with the screen in front of me and all that stuff. But if that's what I have to do, I will. To make it safe for the patrons, I don't know. I think a lot of it will depend on every individual person just being a little more cautious and conscious of who they're touching and what they're touching, and you know, just being safe as you can.
And I think that's something that, you know, bar owners, you know, and let's be honest, health officials alike are going to be concerned about, is that, you know, while it might seem tough that these measures are in place, anyone who's been to a bar and you got a really good band playing that night, there's a very good chance someone's going to get real drunk, think they can sing, and jump on stage and want to take over the mic. As a singer, as a musician, you know, with that possibility, because I'm sure it's happened. Does that worry you coming out of a pandemic, you know, when people get a little too much into them and want to try and jump on the stage?
Yeah, you know, a tiny bit. I'm more worried about our gear getting trashed or somebody getting hurt than necessarily the COVID, as they call it. You know, it doesn't happen for us very often because we're very strict about people being on the stage, just because of the liability reason and our instruments. Because there's a lot of money on that stage. Does happen, no, you're right, it does happen. And sometimes it's not hard. And usually for us, we're kind of lucky. It's usually just girls, and these guys can be a little harder to get rid of. But and it's intimidating when girls come up too, because then they want to, a lot of the time, to kind of hang off you and all this other stuff. They just get lost in the moment or whatever it is. I don't know, but that's more uncomfortable than me being afraid of somebody coming up on stage and giving me COVID stay, I guess.
So now that you're doing these acoustic online Facebook shows, and you are seeing other musicians, you know, that are hopping online and doing, you know, almost, you know, weekly or bi-weekly concerts, you know, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, do you see this as a trend continuing on? Like, it's something that you might, that, keep doing as long as the people are still watching it?
Yeah, like I've had this question before, actually, with a lot of the people who watch on Sunday nights. Like, some of them are in places I'll probably never get to go. Like, there's some people from England and Australia. I can't even name all the places, but yeah, I'll probably, whether everyone else will or not, I don't know. I'll probably keep doing it to some degree. I highly doubt I'll do a 4-hour show every Sunday if I'm playing every Friday and Saturday. That's torture, really, as a singer. But I would probably go on once a week for at least a half hour, maybe an hour, and maybe advertise a little better and promote it a little better. But I think it's a great tool to get out there and get noticed. like in a night on any given time, there's between 10 and 50 people watching. But by the end of the show, if I look at the numbers, it's anywhere from 1,000 to like 2,000 people have been through it. So I mean, I'm not doing that in a bar. I'm not doing 1,500 people in a bar when I'm there. So yeah, it's not to say that the 1,500 people stayed for any length of time. Some of them were there for maybe 2 seconds and just watch it. But I hate this guy, whatever. But they were there. So it just gives you a good chance of getting seen. So I'll still do it to some extreme when we're back playing, but it won't be 4 hours a day. I can almost guarantee it.
Now let's get back to Bon Jovi Forever for a second here. When it comes to that catalog, and you have to think, like, obviously, again, people want the singles, people want to hear "You Can Love a Bad Name," they want to hear like "Always" and stuff like that. But some of the deep cuts, do you have a chance to kind of delve into those? And are there some where it's just like, oh, thank God I finally get to play this?
Yeah, like I like you. Thank God. There is a song. There's a song off Keep the Faith called "Dry County." And me and the keyboard player, from the day that we started the band, the day he joined, I started the band in 2002 and he joined in 2003. After our original player went to school. We always wanted to do "Dry County." And I had always loved that song the day I first heard it. And he wasn't a Bon Jovi fan. I was a Bon Jovi fan. But he wasn't. He was a new age keyboard player. Like he's British, so he was into like all the weird keyboardy, trippy stuff. But he fell in love with Bon Jovi through being in the tribute band. And as soon as he heard "Dry County," he said, I want to do that. And it was probably, I'm going to say, like, the band's been together almost 20 years now. And I'm going to say that it was probably 15 years before we did that song. So when that song, we finally played it live, it was like we looked at each other and we're like the biggest smiles on our faces. Like, we finally did it. And we did it good. Yeah, other than that, though, yeah, like there's songs that we play like that are the B-sides are unknown songs, like "Radio Saved My Life Tonight." That's a great fun song to play, which was, I believe, written for Keep the Faith album. It's on the 100 Million Fans Can't Be Wrong. "Wild as the Wind" is a fun one. We haven't done it for years, but it's a great song and I love it. It's one that was on the list to bring back into the set. There's so many. Like we do Tokyo Road we used to do. That was fun. That was off 7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. And that to me was kind of the song that when I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's the direction Bon Jovi really said that's where they were going. Because the first 2 albums for me, other than the hits, I wasn't that into them. Like there's a few songs I like, but I couldn't probably name you 10 songs between the 2. And then you get from "Slippery" on up until, because we kind of whatever, I could probably name almost every song off every album. And then, the last 2, I think, "This House Is Not For Sale" and the 2020. They're okay to throw on and listen to. For me, they're not a lot of songs I really want to play live on them. Just, number one, I don't think a lot of people are going to know them. And they're just not as fun to play. We'll still do the hits that they release, but I don't think we'll be digging in any deep tracks on those albums for sure.
Now, when it comes to, the past year and a half, I think it's pretty much been a year and a half that we've all been kind of staying at home since, Rudy Gobert started touching microphones at an NBA game and we all get told to stay home. You have people now planning to, when this is done, we're back to normal. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And you have people that are like, we're going to form a band and we're going to go out there and we're going to play the bar scene and we're going to have some fun. So for someone who, from someone who has done that and does do that, what advice would you give, to the aspiring band that wants to get out there and start living their best life? And are there some misconceptions, of what that's like that you want to very quickly and rapidly, say, no, it's not quite how you think it is?
Yeah. Well, it's not as fun as you think. I mean, the the show part is always fun, but you got three, four, five, six guys together. You're gonna fight. You're gonna argue. You got to be able to work that stuff out. You got to think when you do a show, depending on where it is, you could be leaving 4 or 5 in the afternoon and not getting home till 4 or 5 in the morning, and you're not getting paid for those hours. Like even on our best nights, some of them make up for it, but you usually, your top 40 bar gig, you're looking at 100 to 150 bucks a guy, usually, until you can get some real pull by packing places. And then that's when you can say, well, you want us to keep playing here, we need more money. And, but yeah, like it's not easy and you got to do the work. I've seen a lot of bands, and there's a lot of great bands out there, but there's a lot of shitty bands out there. There's a lot of bands that are out there getting paid, that the whole process of the way I learned to do it is gone, or pretty much gone. When I was starting out, I went to every single jam night that was around, and I know there's still musicians doing it, but we used to drag our band out, and every time we would go to 2 or 3 jam nights on a Sunday night, we'd go to 3 different ones. Just number one, to get better, to learn how to play live, and to make acquaintances in the business. And then from that, we started talking to bands who were around that we would come out and open for free, because we weren't ready yet. And there's a lot of bands that aren't ready yet, tribute bands included, who go out there and they're trying to make this money, and they're just not good. There's no show. They're not a band yet. Like they played in their basement drinking beers every Saturday night for a year, but that doesn't always make you a good band. I think you have to be able to entertain an audience. You have to be able to do it when you don't want to do it. There's not every night do you want to play. There's nights you get in a fight with your wife or your girlfriend before you leave. You want to work it out before you go, but you got to go. Now she's pissed off at you because you chose music over her, and all that stuff. And it's and you always will. You're a musician That's your, I've told every girlfriend I've ever had that music's what I do. I've done every job I've ever had so I can keep playing music. It's my life. You're in it if I'm with you and I love you, but don't make me choose, because it's not going to be a choice you like. So yeah, sure, you can do it as a hobby, but I think for the people who want to just do it for fun, stick to house parties and jamming. And I get it's fun to go and play live, but it hurts the whole business if a band, especially now, goes into a club and they're bad. And a lot of the bars will hire the cheaper bands. If a band's coming in and says, "Oh, we'll play for $200," and the bar's like, "Oh, okay. Can you play?" "Yeah, we're pretty good." "Okay." And so now that the bars start bringing in these $200 bands, and they're not that good. And it's not to say they can't be good. They can be, but at that point, they're not. I think it hurts the business more, just because, as you and me going out to see a band, I want to see a band that's good. I don't care if they're as good as I am or better than I am. I just want to see a band that's good, that I can enjoy. And if it's 5 guys standing up, the guitar player's facing the drummer, and they're telling the joke they just heard on stage, and that's their stage banter. It's it's not really it. I don't know. So I'd like to see more musicians take it more seriously, I guess.
Now, for those of us, for those of our listeners who are listening to us from, whether it be the States or somewhere outside of Canada, and I'm not quite sure exactly kind of what's going on here as far as Ontario goes, because we're seeing festivals and concerts being booked in the States because they actually have a decent vaccination rate. Here, we're starting to get there, but it's going to be a while before, the bars have the capacity limits lifted. Because, right now it's outdoor dining only. You can't eat indoors. So as we go through the stages of reopening, it's going to be a while before a bar is going to be able to have enough people come in order to justify having a band in as well. Because it costs bar money to bring a band in. In your opinion, is there something that local governments can do, at the municipal level in order to, not necessarily entice, but to, incentivize bands or bars to bring in bands to stimulate an economy, the live entertainment industry that has probably suffered more than most through this past year and a half?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the suffering. It's really been hit hard. I mean, we were the first ones out of work and probably be the last ones back. It's looking like. What they can do, it's really hard to say. Like, financially, I mean, you can't keep. I would have rather them throw money at the bars or give them the venues some sort of break over the last year and a half. I mean, from what I've understood from most of the bar owners I've talked to, is there hasn't been much help, really. It would just depend on the individual landlords on whether they would, do something nice for the club or for the venue or not. I don't really know what the government can do. Some suggestions for bars, I would say, like, there's a lot of bars that don't like doing covers. And I don't like playing for covers, really. I've done it a few times. We will do it a few more times, etc. But, on a top 40 band, to say, okay, you know what, we're going to give you guys your $100 a guy. But I'm going to also put, say, a $2 cover on the door that people can come in and pay, and that's for the band. If you had 50 people there that night, that's an extra 100 for the band. But I mean, as for the bar, that's not really helping them make any more money. But I mean, I don't. As for the government, though, I don't really know what they could do to help the music industry other than quit screwing them over. Like, maybe make some sort of like a bar can make money or afford, depending on the size of it, on a half capacity with some wheeling and dealing with the bands that they work with. We did a show. We have a bar here in Oshawa called Whiskey John's, and we've been playing there probably almost 20 years. And so, of course, there's a friendship there. It's not just a business relationship. And we did one show over the last year when they were able to have 50 people in the venue. So I went and talked to him, and I just said, listen, we really want to get out and play because we haven't played, and I know you're hurting, and we're friends. So, why don't give me the bar for the night after the dinner crowd's over, and we'll do a show from 8 till 11. I think you're allowed to be in the bar. And we sold tickets for $20. Now, it was the Bon Jovi band, so people will pay. Like, for the Baz Littlerock band, we never would have been able to do that ticket price. But and so we sold it out at the 50 people. And, we made our money that we needed, and the bar made some money, and everybody was happy. Is it a way that it'll work in the long run? I don't think it will, because a lot of the venues who are doing tributes that are just regular bars don't want to throw on that, because it'll turn people away. At $20, you're going to lose your regulars. So it's a hard situation in a band, like, to try and decide how you can make more money or how the bar can make more money. And I really do feel you have to work as a team and not against each other, because when you show up to a gig and we're driving 4 hours with the Bon Jovi band and there's nobody there, to me, it means the bar didn't advertise. It shouldn't be our fault. But at the same point, we've played that bar 10 times, then, you can go on consistency that every once in a while you're going to have a bad turn or not a great turnout. But, when they come to you and they say, oh, you didn't bring enough people, how many people did your cook bring? So there's always an argument, but I think if you work together, that's the best option to come up with, really.
To say that you were gigging in October and here that was, the beginning of, the rise of the second wave. So as a performer playing, at that time and in that environment, how was that for you? Like, was there some trepidation being up there, knowing that, come October, the numbers were starting to creep back up?
Yeah. Like it's in your mind. We had to get, face shields that we attached to our mic stands. Like, we couldn't afford, like, because we were doing that show ourselves, we couldn't afford to buy the screen to go in front of the stage because they're like ridiculous expensive. I think it's a plexiglass screen. So we bought face shields that we attached to our mic stands so that, it would stop our spit or whatever, like little molecules or whatever they're talking about. But the hardest part was in between sets, because you still want to talk to all your friends. Like, you still want to go say hi. You still want to say thanks for coming. And that was hard. Like, we did, but the band was the only one kind of moseying around, really. And when we went towards the table, we kind of stayed away from the table. We just talked to them from a couple feet away and tried to keep it with masks on, of course. And we had we said before the show, if we see anybody get up and go mingle with another table, we have to stop the show. Obviously we don't want to, but that was something that the bar and us worked out to make sure that it didn't happen, or if it did happen, it would stop right away. So the people that came, not everyone listened. So we didn't have to stop the show once for it. We didn't have to remind anybody. Everybody was really well behaved. But, you still wanna, like, we're all huggers in this, a lot of us anyway. Like, you see your friend, you hug them, it's like, you're happy to see him. So it was hard not to do that, but you're grateful to be able to see people in the same room for that, brief moment.
So now you were mentioned earlier some of your original music. So, if we're listening to a Baz Littlerock original, what can, the listener expect to hear?
Fun, just fun pop rock music for the most part. I just write whatever I write, and if I like it, I'll put it on the album. And I don't care if it's like, I don't write country, but if it's got a country flavor, or if it's a metal song, like, I'm influenced by a lot of different things, everything from, say, Taylor Swift to Pantera, like, so it's a pretty wide range in there. Now, most of my stuff sits in the middle of the road rock, straight ahead rock stuff. I really like Bon Jovi and Nickelback and bands like that are really probably what I'm best suited for playing wise. But yeah, I think, like, most of my songs are either about relationships I was in, or life in general, or being a father, all that stuff. But I try not to make all of them too obvious of what they're about, so people can kind of get their own idea of what they think the song's about. Like, I have one song that was about, I was in this relationship and it became an open relationship. And so it was a song about, lack of better words, being able to cheat. or legal cheating, as you call it. And I wouldn't probably suggest an open relationship. It didn't work for me. But that's what that song was about. And some people are like, that's a great love song, man. That's so beautiful. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Not really a love song. But thanks.
So let's take a look at Young Baz for a second here. Like, what was it that, inspired you originally, to pick up the guitar, or to start singing, and to start doing music?
I had two friends, Scott Pitches and Brian Weatherby. I was a jock. I was playing hockey. I wasn't gonna go anywhere in hockey, but hockey every winter, baseball every summer. It's what I did. And my buddy Brian, who was on my hockey team, who was also a schoolmate, said, "Hey, me and Scott, another schoolmate, are doing this Motley Crue air band, and we need a Nikki Sixx." I'm like, "What the fuck is a Nikki Sixx?" The only memory of Motley Crue I had was burning my brother's Motley Crue shirt in the bathtub. We didn't get along that well, so anything he liked, I didn't like. So thankfully, he switched over to liking the Grateful Dead by the time this had happened. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be in your air band, sure." I didn't know what the fuck we were doing, but so the Scott's dad worked for the Oshawa Little Theater and did all the costumes for them. So we made all the theater of pain costumes. So I had the Nikki Sixx polka dotted outfit, and our Vince Neil guy had all the pink frilly shit, and our drummer had the pants with the lips all over it. And we made all their guitars out of like styrofoam and broomsticks. I gotta find a picture of this somewhere, because this guy was a genius. Like, he did all the guitars like what Mick Mars had and what Nikki Sixx had, and the drum set looked like Tommy Lee's Girls drum set, and it was made out of like Bristol board. It was unbelievable. Watch this video. I was like, it almost looked real. And it was so much fun doing it that we got talking, and we were like, "Well, let's start a band." And of course, I didn't want to be a bass player. I wanted to be a guitar player. The guy was the Mick Mars. He was already really good at playing bass. And the guy who was the Tommy Lee, he was a drummer already. So we started playing because of Motley Crue. And then fast forward a couple of years when we could actually play instruments. It was a fun run. So I owe a lot to Motley Crue. The whole reason I got it.
That may be my favorite quote now of the entire Made You a Mixtape podcast run. What the fuck is a Nikki Sixx? I think that needs to be a shirt. Okay, so I often ask some of our guests, because I always find it fascinating. Do you remember the time when, with your own money, whether, through allowance or through a part-time job or whatever, but with your own money that you saved up for, going to the record store and buying an album for yourself, not as something you got as a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, but going and buying an album, the first one that you ever bought for yourself?
The first one I do. The first one I ever bought, I don't know where I got the money from, but was I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett. Was the first. I remember I was hanging out with a friend, and we were playing catch in his backyard. We would play pitcher catcher and had this whole game we did. I don't know how old I was, 12 maybe, 11, somewhere in there. And I remember he had the 45 of I Love Rock and Roll, and we had it he had one of those portable record players, shitty ones with the speaker. And we had it outside. We were playing catch, and it was just like on repeat. Like, it just kept restarting and restarting. We listened to that song, and it just got hooked on. The first full album I bought myself was Michael Jackson, Thriller. That was the first full album. That was before I was into rock and roll. And then it was Huey Lewis and Bryan Adams and Motley Crue. And that's when it.
Nice. So now we've come to the point of the podcast where it's time to get serious here, Baz. It's time to ask the question that everyone gets. So if you, Baz Littlerock, had to introduce yourself to a total stranger, but in doing so, you didn't say, "Hi, I'm Baz, how you doing?" You hand them a mixtape, and on the mixtape are songs that told the story of you. What songs are on that tape, and why are those songs there?
Well, I'm going to start with my new favorite band, the Pretty Reckless. Song called Nothing Left to Lose. I think it's just the title. When I read the title, it was just kind of my feeling of being a musician is, if you want to do it, just go for it. Like, you got nothing to lose. So, as a musician, like, if I had just done Bon Jovi for the last 20 years, I probably still wouldn't be playing, because I would I'm creative and I need more outlets. So then that's hence the reason I started doing originals. I've always written the whole time, but the whole reason I started wanting to do it again is like, well, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money doing it, but I just want to do it. So that's kind of that song's meaning. I think Nickelback Rockstar, and again, not because of the song. I like the song, but it's not my favorite Nickelback song or anything. But the message in the song, like I think when you think of everything that Chad talks about in that song, like the tour bus full of old guitars and the bathroom they can play baseball in, and just the whole dream of being a rock star. I think when you're buying your first instrument, it's kind of like imagining winning the lottery. You think of all these things you want to have when you're famous, and like you want to have the chicks and you want the money, and the bus and the guitars. You know what? I have all the guitars. don't have a parade of chicks. That's by choice. Or girls, sorry, ladies. Or the money. I don't have the money, but what I do have is rock and roll. I do have music, and I think, you don't have to be famous to be a rock star. You just have to be able to touch people. And I think I've definitely done that. My bands have definitely done that over the years. There's people who have followed the Bon Jovi tribute band since 20 years ago. And some of them come and go. Like some of them we've played at their wedding, and then we turn around and we play their divorce, or we've been around when their kids were born, like some of the people who first started, and now some of their kids have been to shows when we do the all ages ones, like, and some of them are even actually coming of age at any time. So yeah, that Rockstar song really kind of sums up the feel of everything for being a musician. Motley Crue, Home Sweet Home. As I was talking about Motley Crue earlier, Theater of Pain was the album that got me into rock music and playing guitar. And Mick Mars is still probably my favorite guitar player to this day. And I think Home Sweet Home is my favorite solo. But I also think just that song alone, like I remember road trips with my dad, stuff like that. I'd be sitting in the back seat. We'd be driving to New Brunswick. It was my turn to put on my tape, and that was the one song that my dad liked from Motley Crue. And he was like, I don't care who you are, you can like that song. And I remember just that, I'm a dreamer. And I think every musician out there for sure is a dreamer. I think everyone is a dreamer, but I really think musicians are strong dreamers for sure. For the same reason this one relates to my dad, the Beatles, back in the USSR, it just takes me back to going to hockey practice early mornings. And my dad was a huge Beatles fan, and he would always put it on, and thank God, because like honestly, probably one of the, if not the best, one of the best bands that have ever been alive for sure. Next song is two songs would be I Remember You and You've Gone Wild by Skid Row. And the only reason, like I love the songs, I love Skid Row, but Sebastian Bach is the whole reason I decided to become a singer. So originally I wanted to be just a guitar player, but most of the guitar players in my school were better than me. And I decided to become a singer because of that. I thought I'll get more work if I become a singer than try and be a guitar player. And of course, Bon Jovi wanted Dead or Alive. It's a song that got me a lot of work over the last 30 years. If I seen it on a set list of a band that I was trying out for, I made sure to put that in the audition, because if I wanted the gig, I would probably get it once I sang that song. So yeah, it's that's it for my mixtape right now. There's probably a million more I could put on there, but
okay. So I'm going to leave you with this, just to pontificate, if you will. So you play in a Bon Jovi tribute band, and you play in a Nickelback tribute band. And when you consider kind of how those two bands are seen by the mass public, you take a look at Bon Jovi. Great songs, like you can't deny the songwriting. They sell it wherever they go. They've got longevity, and yet for the longest time it was kind of okay to hate on them because for whatever reason they were popular, they were big, they were catchy. People kind of crapped on them. Nickelback, they write great songs, they sell at arenas, they've got longevity, and yet people think it's cool to kind of crap on them. So when you take a look at those parallels, is it fair to say, in your opinion, as someone who's, you know, in a unique position that you're in to play in tribute bands focused on both, is Nickelback today's Bon Jovi?
Oh, absolutely. I think they have been for a while. Before I joined the band, we actually did shows with Bon Jovi Forever, and they were Nickelbag at the time. And yeah, I mean, they would always say to us, yeah, like Nickelback's like Canada's Bon Jovi, and they're like the new Bon Jovi and stuff like that. And at the time I kind of just laughed it off, like, yeah, kind of. But yeah, you know, you're totally right. Both bands, like when I started the Bon Jovi, it wasn't cool. Like nowadays it's a lot more acceptable, and I don't know why, because I guess just the longevity of their career, people just finally stopped hating on them. But I remember when I did it, it was like, oh, why are you doing that fluffy music? Like, oh, bubblegum bullshit. You know, it's like, no, it's great. It's just good pop rock songs, man. Like, I like Bon Jovi, so that's why I did it. But yeah, I totally don't get it. Like Nickelback is totally hate. Like the Nickelback hate is worse. Like some people literally get mad. Like Nickelback fucking suck. Like I can't believe you. It's like, no, they're really good. Like really good. I've seen them do covers of Metallica, Pantera, and like their song crafting is awesome. They're good live. And it is totally what you say. It's the success. It's people don't like bands that are super successful. Like you see it with Justin Bieber, right? Like tons of people hated him or hate him just because he was successful. I don't like his music that much at all. But one of my nieces was totally in love with him. So I sat through a live concert video with him. And the kid was playing guitar, he was playing drums, and he was singing and dancing, and he did everything well. So aside from I don't like the music, I can respect him for sure. He's definitely talented. You know, same with Metallica when the Black Album. How many Metallica fans turned on him for selling out? How is it selling out? They just wrote an album of what they were feeling at the time. Like, do you want Creeping Death over and over again? Like, I love it too, or Master of Puppets, or you know, but you got to evolve or you just die. Like, I get it with Bon Jovi going the way they're going, and I can respect it. I don't have to necessarily be a huge fan of it. I'm still going to be a huge fan of the band, and I don't want another Slippery When Wet from them. So I know I kind of got off your question there. You know, yeah, I totally agree with you that Nickelback is definitely comparable to Bon Jovi in a lot of ways. Success, the hits, the bigger girl audience than a guy audience, which, you know, I'll never complain about playing the girls and the bar smells better, you know, when you're there. Yeah, so to answer your question, yes.
Baz, thank you so much for jumping on the show there and having a talk with us. So where can we find you on social media, and what is next for Baz Littlerock?
Yeah, okay, so social media, you can find me on Baz Littlerock on Facebook. It's spelled a little wrong, but it's if you type in Baz Littlerock, I'm pretty sure it comes up, and you'll see my ugly mug there. You can go to bonjoviforever.ca, which I believe there's a link to my Baz Littlerock page on there on Facebook too. BazLittlerock.ca, Nickelback.ca. So anything with the .ca. Nickelback is with an H instead of a K. And what's up next for me? I'm just working on those 2 albums right now. The one that I'm recording with this band called Alter Ego, which they're going really hard at it right now. So I'm hoping that my album will get done around the same time as theirs, but it's looking like theirs might get done first, even though mine's further along. A little more gung-ho than I am. but I'm hoping that my album comes out sometime this year. It's pretty much done. I just need to polish it, shine it up a little bit, and then I'll put out a CD and then put it on the social medias or the streaming sites and stuff like that. I'd love to do vinyl, but I can't afford it. Like, maybe if there's demand at some point, I will. I don't even have a record player, so I can't. But I know a lot of my friends all want one on vinyl. But that's pretty much what I got going on, and then just hopefully playing shows sometime soon.
Well, hopefully, our viewers, will have a chance to hear that music very soon, and hopefully they'll have an answer to what the fuck is a Nikki Sixx. Baz, thank you so much for jumping on the show. This has been the Made You a Mixtape podcast. If you're listening to us on an audio streaming service, you can watch this entire interview over on YouTube. But if you're watching us on YouTube, you can pop on over to any audio streaming service, download the show from there, and listen to us on the go. And you can also find us on the Good Pods app. This is the Made You a Mixtape podcast. I'm your host, Jason Whistle. We will see you next time. Take care.